Welcome, welcome. This is Noah's Compass. I am Noah. We're going to be talking to a guest today, but before that, I want to kind of explain to you what our show is about. So, here at Noah's Compass, we have a mission to give you the best information possible to help you make positive decisions to move forward to a brighter shore. So, all of us have had trials and tribulations, all of us have struggled. The biggest thing is we've all needed to ask for help at one point or another. Everyone's needed help. How many of you know where to go for help? I had no idea where to go for help. And so I struggled and struggled with my own issues. I'm tired of struggling. I'm in a much better position. I've had some wins. I've spoken to a lot of other people that are in a very similar situation to myself. And one of the things that we're going to do here on this podcast is we're going to use real stories to illustrate the problems that are going on. And we're going to give you actionable solutions that you can take to your legal professionals or your assistants of whatever kind. Then let them explain to you how it can work for you and help better your situation. Okay. Nothing that we talk about on this show should be considered legal advice. None of it. I am not a lawyer. I am not bar certified. I'm not. Okay. I've had some successes. I can share with you how I succeeded, and our guests are going to share with you how they've succeeded. Our guest this evening is Mr. Stan McDaniels. He is currently running for the open Senate seat left by Matt Gaetz down in the lovely state of Florida. He is a man that just won't stop. I learned about him when I was surfing around on X, came across his story. And as we got to chatting, I thought, man, this story really needs to be told. So without further ado, let's introduce Mr. Stan McDaniels. Stan, how's it going?
Oh man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
All right. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being in for my first guest. I know it's kind of a different thing coming on a podcast. It's never been done before, but I appreciate the trust, man. So while we got you here, and we had you for a little bit of time, why don't you go ahead and explain to us what it is that you're trying to do down there in the state of Florida?
Sure. So for the past few years, since about 2018, I've been really paying attention to the local politics, and it's shown me a lot of the corruption. If you just will, sit and watch what's going on in your local community, it's quite obvious what's going on, and start following the money. Getting connected with other local advocates, it will really open your eyes. And so that brought me to run for county commissioner in 2022 in District 4 here in Escambia County, right in Pensacola, Florida. And I did pretty well without raising any money and without any advertising. I was able to get almost 22% of the primary vote against an incumbent Republican.
That's a really big amount because most incumbents run pretty much unopposed. So to get 22% of the vote means that people were listening to you. You must have had a really good message.
Absolutely. I had a really wonderful message supporting the Second Amendment. Escambia County was the, I believe, 37th county in Florida to issue a proclamation saying that it's a Second Amendment sanctuary. And this was in 2022. So the Brune decision was about to be announced. And so I staged a Second Amendment open carry protest in downtown Pensacola. And I was going to stay from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I was there from 9 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. when the Pensacola Police Department showed up. Somebody called in. I had been live streaming it on Facebook, and I think I didn't get who called me in yet. But they took my gun that day. They didn't arrest me, and they put the warrant up to the judge. Now, this was on July 4th, 2022, and the judge signed the warrant on July 11th, and there went the news story. And so people saw that news story, and they support the Second Amendment here.
I saw that video too. You were just kind of standing there and the police just walked right up to you. They were saying their thing, and then they just pulled the weapon right off of you. They didn't arrest you or anything. It was really hard to hear the video, but I was just curious. It's like, because as far as I was aware, you can carry a firearm on you visibly in the state of Florida. or is that the
That
law
is
that was in question?
No, that's not correct. So the recent constitutional carry law that was passed, what it did was it made it legal to concealed carry in Florida without a permit. So
Oh,
it open carry is still illegal unless you're on your way hunting or fishing. So you'll see a lot of the Second Amendment protesters with guns, open carrying with their fishing pole, walking to go fishing. So you'll see a lot of those type of videos. It's a way that you can avoid arrest. And so, my dad always told me if you don't like the law, then change it. And this was a way I could change the law, and it has been a lot of persecution. And we just had oral arguments in October, and it sounds very good to overturn this and set a new precedent in the state of Florida to
well,
make open carry legal again.
that sounds kind of odd to me, though, that you would be allowed to concealed carry a pistol without a permit, but you can't open carry. That seems very counterintuitive to me.
Well, the Broom decision, what it says is there has to be a historical context to any gun regulation that's on the books, and the historical context actually prevented people from concealed carrying, because the idea was that a criminal was going to be the one to conceal carry a pistol and to ambush you. Okay, and so that was regulated in the founding days of this country. However, shall not be infringed is pretty clear as well. So
Yeah.
even that may have been an infringement, but it still is a historical context, and that's how the Broom decision states any kind of regulation. So there's still going to be some litigation coming through on concealed carry with other states around the nation because of the reciprocation laws that we need to have, because somebody shouldn't be questioning whether or not they're legal in one state or another, right? And so
Right.
I believe there will be some more arguments to conceal carry as far as it goes with reciprocation. We'll have to just wait and see how that goes. But from the arguments made in open carry, it's really sounded positive that setting a new precedent with Florida will help other states do the same.
Well, and this case is now in front of the appellate court in Florida, right? The district appellate?
So, yes, we had oral arguments. And so less than 1% of appeals cases get scheduled for oral arguments, from what I've been told. And so to just get scheduled for the oral arguments tells you how significant this case is. And the argument at the District Court of Appeals level was, can they overturn this without it going to the Florida Supreme Court? And the state conceded that this was a federal issue, which should give the District Court of Appeals the opportunity to vacate and overturn this conviction and set a new precedent at the district level, because this is not a state issue. This is a federal issue under the Second Amendment.
Now, I have a question for you. The weapon that they took off of you on the street when they confronted you over this, is that the only weapon that they took because of this?
Yes, at that particular time, that was the only weapon that they took. And upon my conviction, Judge Smith ruled that they would keep my firearm and not give it back to me. So she confiscated. She seized my weapon for good. However, upon overturning, I still won't be able to get that gun back because of the lawfare that's come against me since.
Can you describe some of the lawfare that you're talking about?
So I've been going through a family law case, and it has been extremely difficult. And the connections to a lot of the public officials and the police department, possible sheriff's deputies, is quite significant. We live in a military town here as well, so it's just been absolutely terrible. And one of the commissioner's brother is actually a judge, and he was the first one to rule against me. But recently, he came out and he resigned, and he did an interview, and he mentioned a case that was very similar to the first case here, where I actually stood up and said I wasn't going to give them my guns, and I got arrested for that as well on a temporary order. So I turned in all the rest of the 33 guns that I had and the thousands of rounds of ammunition because I had faced arrest, and I was also convicted on failure to surrender my weapons, which is a violation of the order. So, yeah, and then I finally filed to modify my child custody agreement, and it really started getting even worse from there. Um, I miss my children. I haven't seen them in over a year through this whole situation, and there's absolutely no reason for it. I have proof of perjury. I have stated much case law in all my cases, in both of these cases, and it has just been terrible to have to go through this. But in going through this, I realize how this has really affected our communities, especially our minority communities over the years. But it's really starting to branch out into anybody and everybody that's standing for something right, or it's just absolute insanity. And thankfully, the District Court of Appeals is overturning a lot of the cases that make it up to them. But for every case that makes it to the District Court of Appeals, there has to be many other cases that the people just don't have the money to go through that appeals process, the money or the knowledge, right? To go through that appeals process. It's very difficult. It's a civil court. Because of Rick Scott and Pam Bondi pushing the red flag laws harsher here in Florida in 2018, they're just giving these things out like candy. And
Well, can you describe a little bit what some of the new additions to the red flag laws were and why they're so objectionable?
right, so it takes away your right to a trial by jury. So you have one judge that gets to make a decision on circumstantial evidence in a lot of cases, and it's not justice in America. It's a preponderance of evidence versus without a shadow of a doubt. So these are two major differences, and they say it's in the best interest of the public, but taking my guns away from me wasn't the best interest of this community, because I've been an upstanding citizen here. I've run for office. I serve my community. I help with local nonprofits in some homeless uh, missions.
Well, and you've
Uh,
even been a Florida Guardsman as well. So, I mean, you've given
I,
back in a multitude of ways.
and
So,
because of this lawfare, that actually has taken that opportunity away from me. And so in 2020 alone, there was 60,000 of these orders put together. And when we talk about military readiness, this is really affecting that military readiness, because this puts a mark
yeah.
on people's record. It also affects law enforcement, and we can see through the Me Too movement that um, there's a lot of abuse of this system, right, with false allegations and stuff. And so uh, I've never been arrested. I've never had a police report done. I've never laid a hand on my ex-wife, and it's absolutely wrong that this kind of thing can happen to an individual, because it just tears up families, and it's part of the adversarial process that has just been played out in court time and time again through the family law and civil courts.
Yeah.
So it's got to be changed. Even the Rahimi decision out of Texas, the case wasn't brought correctly, and so it got pushed back down to the state, and but it still overturned the case. So there still needs to be much litigation brought forth in this type of case to really have the Supreme Court rule on it. And so I'm very hopeful that any new appointments to the Supreme Court are going to be conservative, because Justice Thomas was the only one that dissented on the Rahimi case. And in his dissent, he said, we already have an apparatus to take people's guns away, and that's by charging them with a crime.
Right. Yep.
Charge them with a crime and take their guns away then. So, this is, it's a gross injustice that's happening, and we have many cases that are being overturned here. And like I said, every case that's overturned, there's many others that should be overturned, but will never make it to the District Court of Appeals because the people don't have the thousands and thousands of dollars that it costs to pay an attorney to take it to the appeal.
Well, we've got an example of some of the speeches that you've given out there. I actually have one clip that we're going to play real quick. It's a little 2-minute clip. Stay with us real quick. This is Stan. Was this at a city council meeting?
I'm not exactly sure which clip you got there, but
okay. Well, we'll discuss it afterwards. We'll go ahead and play it. Here we go.
Sure.
Born from the spirit of the first great awakening, a testament to liberty, freedom, and free will's undertaking, I was ahead of my time, a beacon of human sovereignty, crafted with lessons from mankind's history. True freedom I embody, yet only when enforced. As the Constitution I stand, a course endorsed. In the realm of law I am the highest light. No king, no queen, no power can smite. I am not owned, not held in hand, my sovereignty pure across this land. No monarchy can my power tame, for I am the Constitution in more than name. I resonate through halls of power in every decision, in every hour. I am the framework, the very core of a government by the people, of the people, for. I partner with patriots, with hearts ablaze. In me their hopes and dreams they raise. I am their shield, their sword, their song. With them I stand firm and strong. I am the blueprint, the design of a government for the people, by the people, in line. My measures intimate, my reach wide. In every law, in every stride, yet my justice can be slow to come, not for lack of power, but action from some. For I am a tool, a weapon to wield, in the hands of the people, a protective shield. I am the Constitution of, for, and by the people's champion under the sky. My power is theirs to enforce, to uphold. In their hands my true strength is told. And so I wait with patriot grace for my people to reclaim their rightful place, to take focus, to take a stand, and bring to life what my birth had planned. So rise, patriots, with courage anew, for the power of the Constitution resides in you. Enforce its words, uphold its decree, and watch as its justice sets you free. You can't have freedom without freedom. Thank you very much.
I think that pretty much says it all, man. I mean, that's a powerful statement. I know it's a poem that you read, but if you talk like that in front of all of these councils, I can see why they don't really like you. You're very constitutional. You're a stand-up dude, and you do what's right because it's right. So I can see why they're giving you so much problems. If you don't mind, if you could explain a little bit what led you to make that speech there that day, and just give us a little background.
Absolutely. So, Elon buying Twitter, it brought me back over to Twitter because I was really stifled over on Facebook. And
aren't we all?
So, yeah. And, I was standing up, and when Elon bought Twitter, I came back over. I've had my account since 2010 or ish to share photos with family, and just left it dormant for probably about a decade, and came back when Elon took over. And I started meeting some people on Twitter Spaces, and now X, right? And Came across this guy. I'll have to search for his handle, and he's the one that wrote that. So that's not something I wrote. I did ask him for permission to use it, and he said, "Yeah, go ahead." And so I read it at the Santa Rosa County Commission meeting, and because of the corruption around here, it's absolutely horrendous. And I still got a clap after that from several of the commissioners. So it really resonated with me. The fact that I've thought about a lot about the American dream and what is the American dream. And I think it's different for everybody. But reading that poem, it really made me realize that the Constitution has always been the American dream, and we've never really realized the freedoms that were written in those documents so many years ago. And so I think in this time, in this age, with all the access to information and instantaneous live feeds and instant news, that this is the time that the people can rise up and actually attain that dream of the Constitution being fulfilled in this nation.
Yeah, they said very clearly when they wrote it, we gave you a constitutional republic. It's up to you to keep it. And I think that's one of the challenges we're running into today, is that so many people have forgotten what their actual duty is in keeping that constitutional republic functioning the way it's supposed to. We've given over so much power to so many people, to so many unelected bureaucrats. And now we've got systems that are kind of self-insulating, which is kind of what you've run into with the court system. It sounds like they've gotten kind of nasty with you because you're standing up and saying they're doing it wrong. And that's just unfortunate, because you should always do the right thing. It's just how it is. And when people are getting paid to be civil servants and they're not doing the right thing and blatantly in your face doing the wrong thing, just because it's written down, that's when we got to change it. So I fully support you moving forward, brother, and I hope you do amazing work. Now, my next question for you, though, is what brought you to this point? Because you weren't always an advocate and you weren't always out there. So how did you get to this point to actually decide to do something?
Well, it was facing adversity. I graduated college from University of West Florida in 2010, and recently found out only 30% of locals actually do graduate that start there at the college. And I studied construction management. I minored in business, and I chased my career out to Texas for a few years and got some unfortunate news from my daughter and tried to fight that case. And even though I knew I had the moral high ground, I still lost at every turn. And that's what drew me back to Pensacola. And just to see that system just totally screw me over when I knew I had the moral high ground. The dude ended up getting 7 years probation. My daughter's mother had her charges dropped and expunged. And I never really got a hand in the process of how justice was served. And I'm the one that stood up and did what was right to report what happened. And I was still raked over the coals for it. And so to watch all that happen, and I was still married at that point, and then to see my now ex-wife have this adversarial process through the family courts as well. I had a little bit more time because I had my own business. I wasn't working for a company anymore, so I wasn't working all these super long hours. I could make my own schedule, and that gave me time to actually show up and be a part of the process locally. And when you start to see the actual apparatus, the NGOs, the contracts getting put out at the county level and the city level as well, it just opens your eyes, and you can't stand around and do nothing. That's when evil wins, is when good men do nothing.
Exactly.
I had kids and a family and a job, and that kept me from actually stopping and taking a look to see what was actually going on. And when I started looking at what was going on, it was very obvious to see. And there was others that were trying to advocate for it too, still afraid to stand up and really call it out publicly because of the fear of backlash. And I've met with other people that have tried to run for office at the state level and local level that have also had lawfare brought against them. We see Trump going through all this. He's got millions of dollars
Yep.
to fight these lower courts.
Yep.
And yet he is still losing these battles. And
Well,
what
he's
about the
spent
people
billions of dollars so far, and he's not done yet. So,
and
yeah.
what about the people that don't have millions of dollars to spend?
Yep.
How do you think they fare?
No, we don't fare well, brother. I can tell you from experience, we don't fare well. So
we're looking at over 90% of criminal cases are settled through a now I can't think of it, through the deal that's offered, right? People taking the deal so that it doesn't go to trial. And even in going through a jury trial, I saw how they were able to manipulate the jury pool. So the courts at the local level are completely broken. They've got this thing down to a science, and they know who the compliant people are that are going to choose safety over liberty. But we've got to start choosing liberty. And a jury of my peers would choose liberty.
100%. Yeah. Well, I've had some issues myself with family court. I'm a single parent with full custody, so I had some successes, but they came at great cost. It took me several years and thousands of dollars to get my situation settled, and I'm still not fully settled. So it's just one of those things. And I've reached out to a few people and try to get some help, but there's not a whole lot of help out there if you don't know where to look. And see, you and I got connected in a space where I actually found someone who is offering some help. It's Father Bill over there at he does amazing work on X, and Father X does a lot of good stuff too. That he teaches you how to bring evidence into court. He teaches layman's ways to do things, and some of those I wish I'd have found a lot earlier, because my situation probably would have resolved quicker, easier, and more in my favor. But I didn't know how to do it. And see, the problem with court system is you get a guy like me. I'm very passionate about my son, and then I get into court, and that plays against me. My passion for my kid plays against me, and so you don't. Yeah, and you don't even know how to play it though, and it shouldn't even be how do you play it. You should just be yourself. But unfortunately, the family courts have almost like a script that you have to follow if you want to get a successful outcome. Nobody's sharing the script though. And so I really appreciate a lot of these people that are starting to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I got connected with you through one of these sites. And so we want to try and bring everybody together and give them good information to move forward.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. What are some of the techniques that you weren't aware of that you are now utilizing that seem to be getting you some traction?
Well, you'll just have to come into Veteran Fathers space, morning coffee at from 8 Eastern to 8 a.m. Eastern to 10 a.m. Eastern in the mornings, weekdays, and find out for yourself. It's been wonderful, but I am seeing our nation, the Overton window is really changing quite rapidly. And this isn't a war on women by any means, because women are oftentimes raked over the coals through these court processes too, because it's really about power and influence and money and who's got the most money. So, but the evidence I see isn't just through the spaces that we have. It's other fathers that are standing up and telling their stories. I see the unmarried father on Facebook. I see Maddie with the Anti-Alienation Project, and she's an adult child of divorce who's just now realizing that her father always loved her and rekindling that relationship. And so, like Malachi 4:6, it says, I will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to the fathers, lest I smite the earth with a curse. And so I'm seeing the hearts of the fathers turning. I'm seeing the hearts of the children's turning. And so I have a lot of hope for this nation that we can really get in here, hold these judges accountable, hold these corrupt officials accountable, because this is where it in lies is the problem. And this is the deep state, in my opinion. The family is a national security issue. And what these judges have been doing is outright criminal. It's against the laws that are even in place. So we've got to start turning the tables, and we've got to start calling these judges out, because we don't want these liberal judges in charge of our families and our communities.
Well, there's also a legal pathway to get some kind of what's the word, satisfaction, or some kind of compensation rather out of this, because in doing this they're breaking laws. They're just not being held accountable to it. And it seems like the whole little system up there is protecting everybody while they sit there and break laws for each other. I mean, you've got lawyers that get together in divorce proceedings, then don't even have their clients present, and they just make a deal between themselves and then go back to their clients and explain how they're going to take all their money. So the whole system is set up to protect the system, and it's not protecting the people anymore. They're soaking the people of all of our resources and ruining the communities, and then calling us criminals and red flags and everything else. So this whole thing has got to change. It's got to change. I think we actually are in the climate of that right now, though, with Trump being elected and all the things that are going on. You look at all the appointments that he's got moving up, all the stuff that's coming out in the news, all the motion internationally that's happening just with him being announced as president. So I really think that we're right in the middle of a real climate of change. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast, is because it's time to strike while the iron is hot. We need to get all this information out there so people can actually take steps and support people who are doing the right thing for the right reasons, like yourself. So if people are trying to help you out with your run, what do you need them to do?
Well, before I go there, I really want to kind of touch on the appointments, Trump's appointments. I supported President Trump this election cycle by going to Thomasville, Georgia, and I knocked over 2,000 doors to ensure that, with America PAC, to ensure that Trump won Georgia. And Trump did win Georgia. And I think that is almost solely given to America PAC. At America, you can find them. They were paying really good, so that was really awesome for me. And I got to meet a lot of really great people. And as Trump starts to make these appointments, though, we see, for example, we see Cronister, the sheriff from Hillsborough, Florida. And, you know, when he made his statement that he was going to withdraw from this appointment, he said he was so grateful for the outpouring of support. Well, that's not what I saw. I saw Cronister get trolled, okay, because of his terrible COVID policies, his arresting a pastor, and many other things that he did in his county as sheriff. And so I really hope he is voted out and they get a more constitutional sheriff the next go around. But I'm thankful he didn't get appointed to the DEA, unless day one they're just going to abolish it in the first place. So we really got to be careful about these appointments. Now, two of the good appointments that I like are Kash Patel and Pete Hegseth. You know, and the fact that Trump is telling Pete Hegseth to double down and keep fighting and keep going, it tells me a lot about where Trump stands. And that's why we really have to look at these endorsements by Trump. You know, when he was first inaugurated, he said that he was giving power back to us. So these are just recommendations so that we can vet them too. So we really need to be vetting these candidates. And that's why I'm going to continue to fight as well, because I'm not so happy with Trump's endorsement here for Northwest Florida, because he's not from here and insurance rates have skyrocketed here in Florida under his leadership as CFO. So we need to really watch the money. Where is he getting his money from? Where has he gotten it from in the past? All this big PAC money. And thankfully, we do have America PAC, and I hope that they will back the best candidate in this race, because that's what's needed. The rhinos win because of the low turnout in the primary elections. Okay, and because who's definitely going to vote in the primary? The establishment. And so that is how the rhinos continue to win, is because of the low turnout in the primary elections. So as a write-in candidate, I will not have to primary. So I will, if somebody knows my name, Stan McDaniels, and they're here, then they're here in Northwest Florida, they can write me in, Stan McDaniels. And if you want to, you can donate to my campaign. I sure would appreciate it. It's going to help me get some signs and banners. And I'm going to be doing all kinds of outreach. I'll be continuing to go to the public meetings to announce my candidacy and really get my name out there. This isn't about the money. This is about my children and creating a better future for them, and protecting what our Constitution enshrined, and that is to protect the smallest minority of the individual, our individual rights. That is the number one priority of any federal elected official, to protect the people from the overpower of the state. And so,
well, that seems kind of interesting to me, though, because the gentleman that you just mentioned that you're running against, he doesn't even live there. So they're trying to get him to move to the right county to be able to run. Is that correct?
Right. And there was even another candidate with the Constitution Party. I need to reach out to him, and he's from Texas. So that was kind of weird, but that he could even file to run if he's from Texas. But, I believe I'm a great candidate. And if another candidate convinces me that they're better, then, but I'm going to continue this run, because I believe that we need more regular everyday Americans that have been through these battles, that know what it's like to be on the other end of these battles. Because many of the men that are in this, and there is a woman too, they don't know this side of the coin. They don't know what it's like to be on the other side of those bars. But unfortunately, I do. But it has made me a better person. It has continued to burn this fire in my belly to continue to fight for justice, because I'm going through it now, there's been many others that haven't been able to have a voice. And even if they did, they wouldn't know what to say, because this is just how it is. But I'm not okay with that. This is not just how it is. This goes back to the very inception of our country. We had our Declaration of Independence in 1776. By 1783, we had our first bar exam. That was the real infiltration through the courts, okay? And this was us inheriting the courts from Europe. And then the founders saw this infiltration, and what did they do? They wrote the Bill of Rights in the 1790s. So we have got to hold fast. We've got to fight, and politics is war. And so I'm going to war. And it's donorbox.org/Stan McDaniels for Congress, with dashes in between. You can find me on X at the One Man Stan, and Google or search Stan McDaniels and find me, follow me, and love to have your support, even if it's just likes and shares. That's always a big help too.
Yeah, I was noticing that you were even on a podcast just yesterday with the Libertarian Party. And so it seems like you're getting traction with a whole lot of folks. And it just seems odd to me that you would get so much pushback from everyday Americans when it's people that want to do the right thing. That's who we want to have up there. So
everything we see coming out of the Trump administration right now, these are the libertarian principles that we've been pushing for many years. I registered as a Republican in 2008 so that I could vote in the primary for Ron Paul. And
Yes.
these are the very same thing. I mean, look, Doge went to Ron Paul and said, would you talk to us? Would you tell us, give us some pointers, tell us what we need to be doing here? And, he said we should abolish the IRS and replace it with nothing. So he was a very brave man, and he actually ran as a libertarian in 1988, before I was ever even able to vote. I think I was 5 years old. So, but by 2008, I was wanting to vote for him for president. So,
I actually
and
ran
20,
his campaign for him in the state of Washington. I was a videographer for the campaign in Washington
oh,
State, and
yeah,
for that election, that was when I cut my teeth in politics, right
yeah,
then, because
yeah,
I love Ron Paul. That man is a genius. He's so humble and just genuine and warm, and he was a family doctor, for crying out loud, with his own practice. That just doesn't happen anymore, right? And his head is on so straight. I mean, look at what he did with his kids. I mean, he's not far from the tree. So he's done a really good job. And I wish he could have gotten a lot more support than he did, but he still did really well. And that was the first time that I actually realized that so many people shared these opinions, because it was kind of a fringe idea for a long time to be a libertarian and laugh at you. Oh, yeah, like that matters. But it actually does. And you're seeing it now, where everyone from the extremes, they're coming back to the middle. And this is
yes,
more of what the libertarian principles are. They're not extreme on anything. They're very centrist and very constitutional. And
yeah.
that's what we're seeing a revival of right now. And it's very encouraging.
Yeah, so I've been saying this for a little while now, because I watched the vote. So in 2016, we had almost 4.5 million people vote for the Libertarian candidate, then Gary Johnson. In 2020, it was 1 point something. I don't remember that number off the top of my head. And then this election, it was less than 600,000 Libertarians voted for the Libertarian candidate. So go thank a libertarian for winning the popular vote today, because that is the number one reason why Trump won the popular vote this go around, is because of the libertarians showed up for him. Our top influencers showed up for him. And this is the number one reason why he won the popular vote.
Well, there was a lot of contention in the Libertarian Party this go around as to who they were going to put up. The whole
Well,
party was divided.
but
But the
when you
fact
look
that
at
they
the
got
numbers, it wasn't the whole party. It was less than 600,000 of our party that just stay to voting for the libertarian candidate versus picking the best candidate for the job, right? And Gary Johnson was a great candidate, and there was still a lot of that left versus right thing, and people were just continually tired of that. But then we saw what Trump did in those 4 years, and we supported him more in 2020, and then now even more in 2024. So
Well, he
the
actually went to
libertarians
the
are going to turn.
Libertarian convention and spoke and made some promises and said, yes, I'm going to do this if you guys support me. And again, that was very encouraging, because you see him reaching out to people that have typically been left out of doors, and he's like, what do you guys want? What do you need? How can we assist? And so if
Yeah.
he follows through on some of the promises that he made to the Libertarian Party, I'm going to be even happier. So
Well, I still would like to see a libertarian appointee.
I would as well. I would still
Because
like to see Snowden get pardoned. There's
we
lots of
haven't
people I'd
seen
like to
that
see get
yet.
pardoned. Yeah. See, I thought that was kind of interesting, where he pardons his son for 14 years or 10 years or some insane number to cover all his crimes. But you've got so many people that are sitting in jail right now that he could have pardoned at the exact same time and just chose
Yeah,
not to. It just shows
Ross.
he doesn't care about the people. And I think that's the biggest thing that lost the election for the Democratic Party, is they're like, no, we don't want you. You disagree with 2% of what we're saying. We only
Yeah,
want 100%. And the Republicans, on the other hand, are like, you agree with 5% of what we're saying? Come on in, dude. We'll talk to you about the rest. And when you have one party that's just, get out of here, you don't buy it, and then everyone else is welcoming, it's no surprise that we had such a shift in this country. It really isn't.
yeah. Well, Ross Albright was our bargaining chip, and for Trump to promise to pardon him, the libertarians really came out in support for him. And now we're looking at Is it Robert? I think it's Robert Bear. He's a Bitcoiner, that's going up on tax evasion and some other charges right now. So we're hoping he can get a pardon as well. It's really time to end the IRS, and you shouldn't have to figure out how much you owe and only to get arrested if you get it wrong, right? So we've got to come up with a better system than that for sure.
All right, Stan. Well, this is where I'm going to open up the floor to you and let you go ahead and breach any topics that you want to. This is the take it and run mode. So you
Sure.
feel free to say anything you want. We can go off the rails. Totally don't mind. We can treat it like an X space at this point if you like. You just chat. But
Yeah.
I've covered most of the stuff that I want to, and anything else that you feel like sharing, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, you're not going to find a better Second Amendment candidate than Stan McDaniels, because I've stood up for it. I've been willing to lose my freedom over standing up for it, and I have lost my freedom for standing up for it. And so you're not going to find a better Second Amendment advocate than Stan McDaniels. So that right there is number one. We've got to protect the individual's right to bear arms, because it shall not be infringed, and yet it is infringed all over. We need to we need to overturn the NFA and abolish ATF, and we need to give this power back to the sheriffs, right, to enforce the laws that we have in place, because we don't need all these different agencies that are just looking for problems and revenue to oppress Americans. We need to let Americans be free. Liberty over safety. We have to have some form of public safety for sure, but when we have the chance to choose liberty over safety, we need to choose liberty. You can't have freedom without freedom. It's a famous quote I got from my friend Larry Downs Jr. I'll be joining him on a podcast sometime soon as well. I'm willing to fight, and I'm not going to stop fighting for this area and for the rest of the country. So I hope
not only are you fighting, you're winning, because your case is moving forward and getting further than lots of other people's. So you're actually taking the fight right to them, which I got to commend you for.
In that one case, I am winning, but I'll tell you, I've been stacking up a bunch of losses, and it's sad for my sons and my daughter that they have been without their father for such a long time, because it really it's
terrible to separate a parent from their children. It should never happen. So
it's been terrible to be without them, but I know I have faith and I have patience, and so I know God's going to turn all this stuff around for good in the end. And no matter how much suffering or persecution I have to go through, I'm going to keep on getting up, and I'm going to keep on fighting. So, I've been learning a lot more, as my own lawyer, I've had a fool for a client, right? So, but I'm learning as I go, and I know I've had some valid arguments, although maybe I haven't worded them right. So, I'll get it right in the end, and my children.
Well, see, that's something we all struggle with, until you know the right path, you're going to struggle around and just kind of trip over things. And we all do that, but the resources are out there, and I'm on a quest to find them and share them with everyone. So I really appreciate you being able to come on here and talk as my first guest. So this has been awesome. I really appreciate you, Stan.
Yeah. Thank you so much for letting me tell my story. There'll be much more on my candidacy and my campaign moving forward. I'm going to support constitutional laws to get put on the books. We need an internet bill of rights to help with the crypto markets and our data. Our data has been being bought and sold without our consent, just by randomly agreeing to terms of services. And so we need to definitely reel in these big companies so that they're not just profiting off the data we're creating, because that's our data. That's our data that we're creating, and we ought to have a say in where it goes and when it goes somewhere. So,
agreed.
We definitely need an internet bill of rights, and that's going to take a lot to put together. So we need to get that going on the move, and I'd like to see us look at the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S., especially when it comes to some of the land that's owned near military bases, and see what we need to do about that. I'm really looking forward to getting up there on the Hill and fighting for everyday Americans. I think that we have some good days coming. We might have to go through a little bit of turbulent time with a lot of people losing their jobs at the federal level, but everything's going to work out because we'll have a lot of jobs that are needing open with getting rid of the illegals. So, there's going to be a lot of opportunity out there, especially for entrepreneurs. And so I would be looking into how you start your own business. And so, because the small business is the backbone of this country, it always has been. And the corporatocracy has been doing everything it can to break that backbone. And it's time for us to heal that backbone and get it built back up so that the small businesses can love their employees, pay them well, and offer great benefits and get this country built back up again like it was intended.
Well, Stan, thank you very much for your conversation this evening. Don't forget to reach out to Stan and donate to his campaign so we can get some signage out there. If you're in the state of Florida, don't forget to go down there and write his name in. It's listed in the show description so you can spell it correctly and actually get the vote to him. So is there one last thing that you want to end with, Stan?
You can't have freedom without freedom. So let's get up and fight for it. If you're not running for office, just at least show up to your locals. These local meetings should be standing room only because this is where they're really getting away with all the dirt. So if you just start showing up, watching it, even if you're just watching it online to start with, but if you go get there and occupy that ground and be present, that means a lot more when they start seeing those people show up. So start showing up at your local community meetings. And let's be the change we want to see. Stan McDaniels. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Stan. Have a wonderful night. That was Stan McDaniels. So yeah. He's a great guy. He's fantastic. And you should go out and you should support him. So again, I'm Noah. This has been Noah's Compass. And thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time.